It is a Tuesday morning at the garden center. You walk past the shelf you always walk past. Weed killer, $11 a jug. The concentrate, $19. A little pump sprayer to go with it, another $14. A family spends $60, $70, sometimes $100 a year on bottles to fight the same green shoots that come up through the same cracks every spring, and the maker of that jug spends pennies to fill it. Now come out to where I work, to a gravel path that has not been sprayed once in 10 years, and let me show you what is under it. You think the problem is the weed. You think if you just find the right bottle, the strong one, the professional one, the one behind the counter, you finally win the war. You are wrong, and the wrongness is costing you every summer. The weed is not the problem. The problem is that you wait. You walk past the seedling in April when it is the size of your fingernail, and you go to battle with it in July when it has a root as long as your arm. The fight you dread every summer was already lost in the spring, on a morning you did not even look down. I am Kenji Tanaka. I learned to keep a place properly from my father, on a small farm in Nagano, where the winters were long and nothing, not a tool, not a board, not an afternoon, was ever allowed to go to waste. We have a word for that waste. Mottainai. The quiet shame of letting a thing become a big job when a small bit of care would have kept it small. A weed pulled at the right moment costs you 1 second. That same weed, ignored, costs you a weekend, a sore back, and a trip to the store. By the end of this, you will know how to clear every weed already growing in your driveway using only what sits in your kitchen right now. And then how to set the ground so new ones almost never come back. No spray, no gloves, no warning label. So let me tell you how boiling water actually works, because once you understand it, you will stop wasting it and start using it well. This is the first tool, and it is already in your house. Fill your kettle from the tap. Bring it to a hard, rolling boil. Not warm, not steaming, boiling. Carry it out to the driveway and pour it slow, right onto the crown of the weed, that spot where the green meets the crack in the stone. Not a splash across the leaves. A slow, deliberate soak, right where the plant drinks. Here is what happens when you do. Water at 212 degrees ruptures the cell walls of the plant on contact. It cooks the proteins inside the leaf the same way heat turns an egg white from clear to solid. And just like that egg, the plant cannot uncook itself. Within a few hours, the green goes limp. Within a day or two, it is brown, crisp, and finished. That is not a chemical reaction. That is just heat, doing what heat has always done. It costs you nothing but the water and a minute at the stove. But I made you a promise to be honest, and here is where most of the videos online go quiet. Boiling water is a contact treatment. It kills what it touches and only what it touches, so it matters enormously what kind of weed you are pouring on. On a young weed, the little spring seedlings that have barely rooted, one pour is very often the whole job. They are gone and they stay gone. But on an older weed with a deep taproot, a dandelion, bindweed, a thistle, the leaves die and the root down below survives. That root is a fuel tank. It has energy stored in it, and in a week or two, it spends that fuel to push up a fresh set of leaves. When that happens, understand what it means. It is not the method failing. It is the plant telling you how big its root is. So you meet a big root the way my father met a long winter, with patience, not force. You pour again every 2 to 3 weeks. Each time, the root spends energy to grow new leaves. Each time, you cook those leaves before they can photosynthesize and pay that energy back. A plant cannot save what it is never allowed to earn. Do that through a season and the tank runs dry. The root gives up. That is the honest picture of boiling water. Nearly free, safe around your dog and your grandchildren the moment it cools, leaves no residue, will not stain your stone or eat your concrete. It simply evaporates and is gone. Now I have to say a hard word about salt, because the internet will not stop telling you to pour it in the cracks. Yes, salt kills the weed. It also poisons the ground, and this is the part they leave out. Salt does not stay where you put it. The next rain carries it sideways, down into the soil under your lawn, toward the roots of a tree you have loved for 20 years. It builds up with every application, and a strip of earth poisoned with salt can stay dead. To grass, to flowers, to everything, not just weeds, for years after. So here is my rule, and I will say it plainly. Keep the salt in the kitchen. Boiling water does the same work with none of the long regret. Do not trade a weed this summer for bare, dead ground for the next 5. For the truly stubborn weeds, the established ones where boiling water alone is slow going, there is one stronger tool worth keeping in the shed. Horticultural vinegar. Not the 5% bottle from your kitchen. that one only touches the tiniest seedlings and gives up on anything with a real root. Horticultural vinegar runs 20 to 30% acetic acid, and at that strength it burns straight through the waxy skin of a mature leaf and destroys the tissue. It works, but you treat it with the respect a strong tool deserves. At that concentration, it will burn your skin, and it can badly injure your eyes if it splashes. So, gloves on, eye protection on. Keep it well away from children and pets while you work. Use a small, precise sprayer on a still day, because vinegar this strong cannot tell your prize plant from a weed. Neither can the boiling water, for that matter. Both of these are what a gardener calls non-selective. They kill whatever they land on. That is why you use them in the cracks, on the gravel, on bare ground, and never as a tool inside a flower bed you care about. Right up against a plant you want to keep, nothing has ever beaten your own hand in a soft patch of soil, and that is the whole of clearing what is already there. A kettle for the many, vinegar, carefully, for the few. Your hand for the delicate work. Now let me show you the part that earns the word permanent, the part that means you rarely have to do any of this again. Before that, though, let me pause, because there is one small matter of timing that decides whether everything I am about to tell you works, or whether you waste a whole afternoon, and nearly everyone gets it exactly backwards. Here it is, and it is worth writing on your hand. Treat in the heat, pull in the damp. When you use boiling water or vinegar, do it on a hot, dry, sunny afternoon, when the plant is already stressed by the heat, its pores wide open, the water inside it moving fast. Hit it then, and the damage drives deeper. But when you pull a weed by hand, you want the exact opposite. Wait for the morning after a rain, when the soil is soft, grip the weed low where it meets the ground, and pull slow and steady, straight up. The whole root slides out clean. Yank at a weed in dry packed earth and the top snaps off in your fingers while the root stays behind, laughing, ready to send up a new shoot within the week. Treat in the heat. Pull in the damp. 2 different jobs, 2 different days, and most people have them reverse their whole lives. Now, prevention. Walk through any old, well-kept courtyard where I come from, any tidy home with a gravel path, and look down under the gravel. There is a layer of woven landscape fabric down there, laid flat against the soil. It is a simple thing. It lets the rain drain straight through so you never get a puddle, but it blocks the light from reaching the soil beneath it. And a weed seed cannot germinate in the dark. No light, no sprout. No sprout, no weed. You do not need to send away for anything special. You buy the very same roll at any garden center, sold as landscape fabric or weed barrier. Laying it is honest, simple work. First, clear the area all the way down to bare soil. Pull or pour off whatever is growing now so you start clean. Then roll the fabric out across the whole surface, and where 2 pieces meet, overlap the edges by a few inches so nothing finds the seam. After that, pin it down flat with landscape staples. The little steel U-pins, a few dollars for a bag, every couple of feet and along every edge so the wind never lifts it. Finally, spread your gravel, or your decorative stone, or your bark over the top, a good 2 to 3 inches deep. That top layer does 2 jobs at once. It holds the fabric down, and it shields the fabric from the sun so the fabric itself does not rot in the light. Done properly, and this is the number to remember, a setup like that holds a path or a driveway edge weed-free for 10 years or more with almost no work. The odd seed that blows in and tries to root in the dust on top of the gravel pulls out between 2 fingers in 1 second. Now, a flower bed is different, because in a bed you actually want things to grow. There you skip the fabric. It fights your own plants and it shuts out the earthworms that keep the soil alive. Instead, you use mulch. A blanket of bark chip or wood chip, again 2 to 3 inches deep, spread across the open soil of the bed. It smothers the light from the weed seeds exactly the way the fabric does. But as a gift, it also holds moisture in the ground, so your tomatoes and your roses ask for far less water through the hot months. And slowly, quietly, it breaks down and feeds the soil beneath it. You top it up once a year. That is the entire chore. There is one more layer to it, the one that is prettiest and asks the least. Ground cover. Instead of leaving bare dirt between your plants, which is simply an empty seat a weed will always come and sit in, you fill that space with something low and living. Creeping thyme along the edge of a path. Sedum spilling down a dry slope. Moss in the shady corners. A healthy carpet of any of them crowds the weeds out by sheer density, gives them nowhere to land, and asks almost nothing of you in return. A living weed barrier that also happens to be beautiful. So now let me tell you why nobody ever taught you the kettle. There is no money in a thing you buy once and use for 10 years. a roll of fabric that outlasts a decade, a kettle you already own, a 5-minute habit that costs nothing. None of that shows up on anybody's sales report. But a jug of weed killer you come back and buy again every single spring, season after season, year after year. That is very good business. Now hear me clearly, because I am not selling you a conspiracy. No one sat in a dark room and plotted against your driveway. It is worse than a conspiracy, in a way. It is a system nobody had to arrange. A whole industry that simply quietly profits from your not knowing that a kettle of tap water does the same job for free. It does not sell you the cure. It sells you the fix, again, every season. And once you have seen that plainly, you cannot unsee it. Let me give you the honest math, the way my father would have. Say you spend $60 a year on sprays and a new sprayer, and many families spend more. Against that, a kettle of water is free. Horticultural vinegar, a few dollars, and it lasts you months. A bag of mulch for a bed runs $10 to $15 and lasts the year. A roll of weed fabric for your path is $30 to $50. One time and lasts 10 years. Add it up and you are looking at spending on average a few dollars a year instead of $60. That is $50 and more back in your pocket every year. For the rest of the time you own that home. And that is before you count what you save by never again replacing a shrub the overspray killed by mistake. Mottainai. Why throw $60 a year onto the fire when a little steady attention keeps it in your hand? So here is what to do this week. Do not wait for the weekend. Fill your kettle tonight or tomorrow, walk your driveway and your patio, and pour boiling water on every green shoot and every crack you can find. The seedlings you catch now, small, will not come back this year. Then walk your gravel paths and the edges of your beds, and anywhere you see bare soil showing through, lay down fabric and gravel, or top your mulch back up to a full 2 to 3 inches. That is the big push, and you do it once. After that, it is small and steady forever. 5 minutes after a rain to pull whatever new thing has appeared, root and all, and a kettle once a month for the cracks. That is the whole of it. Let me give you one more free tool while we are in the kitchen, because you already own it too. When you boil pasta or potatoes, do not tip that water down the drain. That starchy, salted cooking water is already hot, and pouring it on a crack in the driveway is the most Mottainai thing I know. You cooked your dinner and cleared your weeds with the same kettle. My father did that his whole life. He never once thought of boiling water as a thing you make special for weeds. It was simply the water that was already hot, going to a second use before it cooled. That is the whole spirit of it. You are not buying anything new. You are wasting nothing you already have. One warning on the vinegar that the labels do not shout loudly enough. It works best on a hot, dry, sunny day, and it works poorly in the cool and the damp. The same sun that stresses the weed helps the acid burn. So do not judge it on a gray morning and decide it failed. And know this honestly, even horticultural vinegar, strong as it is still mostly a top killer. On a young weed, it may finish the whole job. On a deep taproot, it does the same as the boiling water. It burns off the leaves and you come back and do it again until the root gives up. Anyone who tells you one spray of anything natural kills a mature dandelion root in one go has not pulled many dandelions. Be patient. Patience is the only thing the root cannot outlast. And here's the quiet thing about all three of these. The fabric, the mulch, the ground cover. None of them fights the weed. Not one. They simply take away the thing the weed needs, which is light on bare soil. A weed is not strong. It is only opportunistic. It grows where you left an opening. Close the opening and you never have to win a single fight, because the fight never starts. That is the difference between the way I was taught and the way most people garden. Most people wait for the enemy and then go to war. My father never went to war with anything. He just never left the door open. A yard kept that way is not a battlefield you win each summer. It is a quiet place that stays quiet because you gave the weeds nowhere to stand. Now do something for me down in the comments. Tell me how old your house is and how it went when you tried the kettle. I read everyone, the old brick homes and the brand new builds both, because the ground does not care what year the house went up. Because your driveway does not have to be a battleground every July. It never did. It just needs a kettle you already own, a roll of fabric you buy once, a bag of mulch, and the small steady attention my father would have simply called keeping the place. Not a war you fight every summer, a door you keep closed. That is how it is still done in any home that remembers.